from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Digging into the solvency of the farm economy. Plus, it's dry in North Dakota in agribusiness. Down south, is cotton king or...
cotton is cuss word sometimes in the South, so...
Some dairy favorites make it out to the ball game in Wisconsin. And microgreens growing thanks to help from USDA's microloans.
AgDay, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. As planters roll and get put away, summer crops are often growing. But will prices in the farm economy offer enough support to keep producers in business? That question, part of an upcoming release from Ag Bank farmer Mac. We got an exclusive first look at its quarterly financial report, The Feed. Among several of the topics, an update on farm bankruptcies. Farm bankruptcy rates, Chapter 12, have remained relatively low during the last decade, but the agricultural downturn during the past 3 years has resulted in a small uptick in farm bankruptcy rates.
It seems pretty spread out, right? So it's not systematic. It's not all located within one region or one commodity. It tends to be a little bit idiosyncratic. And yes, there has been an increase in some of the canaries in the coal mine. Bankruptcies are one of those lagging indicators, so you see that sort of at the end of a really tumultuous economic cycle and agricultural cycle. We've seen maybe a very small uptick, but it's not been anywhere near what we saw in the Great Depression or after the 1980s farm crisis or anything like that. And that's one of the things that really gives me a lot of good feelings about the ag economy and their ability to continue to pay their debts and continue to find a way to make their farms work in any sort of economy.
Now, according to The Feed, the average bankruptcy rate over the past decade has been roughly 2.3 farm bankruptcies per 10,000 farms. Some of the states where bankruptcies are more common, Nebraska, Eastern California, the middle of Georgia, Kansas, and Wisconsin. However, states like Iowa and Missouri have relatively fewer bankruptcies. The Feed also making note of projected 2017 farm income. According to USDA and the University of Missouri's FAPRI, the farm economy expected to stabilize somewhat in 2017. Net farm income projected to decline for a fourth consecutive year, but the rate of decline is slowing. However, net cash income, well, that's expected to be higher in 2017, up almost 2%. Speaking of money, let's check on crop progress this week from USDA, including fresh condition updates. With nearly all corn planted, attention turns to crop condition. This week shows 68% good to excellent condition. That's 3 points higher than last week. The Western Corn Belt remains the leader in quality, with Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota all rating in the upper 70s. Now in the East, Pennsylvania lags with 82% planted, but what's there is in very good shape. 82% considered good to excellent. Soybean planting now moved ahead. 83% is now in the ground. That's 4 points ahead of the 5-year average. USDA says we'll get our first crop condition rating of soybeans next week. And we're getting our first look at winter wheat harvest on a broader scale. Texas leads with 58% now harvested. That's well over twice the average pace. Nationally, 10% is now cut. And spring wheat condition has been downgraded. 55% is called good to excellent. That's 7 points lower than last week. The biggest decline in Montana and South and North Dakota. When last week's drought monitor was unveiled, the Northern Plains showed some of the biggest expansion of dryness in the country. A quarter of the state of North Dakota is now in moderate drought, and the rest of that state is called abnormally dry. This side-by-side comparison shows how the dryness has intensified. Cliff Naylor from AgDay affiliate KFYR reports on how producers are weathering this dry spell.
Lance Rainer doesn't need his glasses to see how dry his fields are as he finishes seeding his sunflowers.
You've got dust blowing and it's 2 inches down. It's just no moisture.
Jim Bam completed planting a week ago. He has to dig down 3.5 inches to find moisture.
It is bone dry.
Bam says 2 inches of rain fell in April, and growing conditions were good when he was putting in the 2017 crop.
We had a full profile of moisture back then, but she is drying out fast, but day by day.
This wheat field is in the early 3 to 5 leaf growth stage. If the crop doesn't get moisture soon, Bam says yields will be reduced.
You're going to lose a lot of bushels.
Market traders are also noticing how dry fields have become in North Dakota.
The market is always going to trade what is the current news, and right now the fact that there's more dry condition in North Dakota than there was a week ago, certainly that has their attention.
Long-range forecasts aren't calling for significant rain for the next 2 weeks. But that's not dampening BAM's spirits. He's already purchased herbicide to spray for wild oats, pigeon grass, and broadleafs.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
BAM recently turned his cows out and says those pastures will also need rain to keep his herd fed this summer. I'm Cliff Naylor, reporting for AgDay.
Thanks, Cliff. U.S. trade officials meeting this week with counterparts in China to finalize trade protocols regarding the export of U.S. beef to China. The move follows last month's announcement that the U.S. and China reached an agreement to restart U.S. beef shipments to China, sidelined since 2003. Now, reopening the market would give U.S. beef access to more than 1 billion consumers. Now, let's check on crop conditions around the country. With that, we have today's crop comments and Mike Hoffman. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Let's start off in Scioto, Illinois. Grant Curtis sending us a picture of a third time planting this field. His first replant was corn. Now he's switching to soybeans. Curtis says a few farmers south of him are sticking with corn. Others are planting beans where corn was drowned out a second time. And Matt Nelson in Burt County, Nebraska, sending us a photo. He's on the home stretch of planting. This is him planting one of his last rounds of soybeans into the terminated rye cover crop. He says most farmers are wrapping up in his area. Sounds as if there could be some replant due to crusting issues, though. And taking a look at the weather map, you can see a pretty rainy situation in the Northeast and the Gulf Coast. Elsewhere, not a lot. We'll let you know where the rain does come, though, in some of the other areas. Coming up with my forecast. First, here are some hometown temps.
Be prepared for work each day, rain or shine, by signing up for local weather forecast updates delivered straight to your cell phone. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
The Agribusiness Desk will be headed south to discuss current cotton prices and planting trends. And since it's now the month of June, we're going to celebrate dairy. That includes a visit to a major league park that's celebrating some of the signature dairy products found in that state. Plus, we'll see how a federal loan program from the Ag Department is helping new farmers hit it big with the tiniest of crops. Agribusiness cattle keep a hoof on the gas in Monday's trade. Let's see how other major commodities started the week with comments from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
The grain market showing really very little change over the course of the day. We've seen prices on both sides of unchanged, with the funds really doing the best selling, even though they are extremely short, and the commercials and smaller speculators doing perhaps the best buying in through here. The corn market very close to unchanged, whereas the wheat has started to sag a little bit here. A lot of concern, except for spring wheat, which has been firmer. A lot of concern in winter wheat areas about the quality of the crop. Certainly the yields are down in most of the Great Plains. Oklahoma, Texas reporting lower yields and very disappointing yields, to be frank. But the protein is also very low at one wire service quoting 10.4%. And you need 11% or above really to make good wheat. Thanks very much. This is Jack Scoville. I'm Vice President of Price Futures Group, here on the CME Group floor with some comments for the markets.
Ashley Arrington with Agri Authority, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Ashley, let's talk about this cotton market. You follow it pretty closely. Talk about the recent run in prices that we've seen. It's been a pretty decent bump.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty dramatic recently, to say the least. I like to say that market can be a bit dramatic at times, especially in relation to the July contract.
Right.
We saw it go on a wild limit up speckled ride up to 87 cents, and it's been on a constant decline ever since. It's back down. Last I looked today, we're up to 77, so we're a dime off the high.
Sure.
But December, we haven't seen as much volatility out of it. Come up a bit when July went on that wild ride, but not near as much. And the same, it's declined a little bit after the wild ride, but not near as much.
Yeah, so how does this translate back to the farmers? Farmers are really planting this cotton crop right now. How's that translating back to them?
Well, in terms of a lot of farmers really look at the December contract a good bit, especially the ones that I work with in the South. So they've had some opportunities to lock in some pretty profitable prices.
Which is great, right?
Which is great. I mean, they've had that, and we're back down to 72 cents, which is still good. I mean, it's a lot better than it was last year. So we're looking favorably at cotton in the South. I mean, cotton is a cuss word sometimes in the South. So, you know, we're back on favorable ground with it.
Yeah, so how will this translate into acres? Do you think we'll suck any more acres into cotton, or is what we have what we're going to get, or could that even change?
Well, that was a pretty lofty number that USDA came out with at 12.2 million. And I don't know if all those acres will get planted. We've had some weather problems. There have been some credit reasons. I understand that some growers have not been able to get cotton in the ground. And then in the South, with the price of peanuts right now, and historically peanut and cotton states, peanuts have took some acres away from cotton in some states. So I think we'll stay pretty level, maybe decline a bit, but I honestly don't think we will go above 12.2 million.
All right, well, appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Ashley. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For market insights and farm debt analysis, contact Ashley Arrington at 706-699-4543 or visit agraauthority.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here, meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, really two real dry pockets. We've got the northern plains, and we have Florida, and Florida may be changing this week.
Oh, yeah. That's the last little bit of severe and extreme drought areas, and they're just going to get a ton of rain. So let's go to the maps. As you can see, there's a pretty good area of low pressure in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico along this front, and it's just going to kind of hang out over there. So a lot of the Gulf Coast area is going to get a lot of rain, and it starts to scoot toward Florida. You can see a pretty good system in the northeast as well, kind of a secondary system rotating around with it to the west into the eastern Great Lakes. And as we put the maps into motion, you can see how that just kind of sits there. And so there will be some showers, especially afternoon. Variety showers and thunder showers for the eastern Great Lakes into parts of New England. There's the area of low pressure south of New Orleans there. You can see by later today. We do have this front in the northern plains. It's going to be more scattered and not real heavy, at least in most areas. Now you can always get a thunderstorm to put down some pretty good amounts in a small area, but right now it doesn't look like any widespread rains with that cold front. But as we head into tomorrow morning, the area of low pressure just barely moving along that front toward the state of Florida, and that's where it's going to continue to be very wet with very heavy thunderstorms developing close to this cold front and either side of it as well. So that's where most of the moisture is going to be. High pressure from New England down into the central and southern plains by later tomorrow, keeping things dry. We do have a system coming into the Pacific Northwest, though, as we head through the second half of the week. There's a precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. Already some pockets of pretty heavy amounts in parts of the Gulf Coast, but look what happens as we head through the next 36 hours. We end up with what our computer model is showing massive amounts. I mean, half a foot of rain perhaps in parts of central and southern Florida. So that is something we have to actually watch, even though it's very sandy soil. That can be a lot of rain in a short amount of time. Temperatures this afternoon on the cool side, eastern Great Lakes into New England with 50s and 60s for highs, but elsewhere, from the Corn Belt all the way into the south, it's pretty warm, and you can see lots of 80s, even some 90s showing up in the southern plains. There's some triple digits in the southwestern portions of the country. Lows tonight going to be 50s across most of the Corn Belt, 70s by the time you get to the Gulf Coast, and highs tomorrow afternoon. Not quite as warm in the central and southern plains, but you can see it's pleasant. 60s and 70s really for most of the Corn Belt with some 90s showing up in South Texas. There's the ridge that is now expected to develop once we finally get rid of this cutoff here in the northeast and eastern Great Lakes by this weekend into next week. That's a pretty big warm up all the way into New England with the next trough kind of being shunted. It's not really coming balling eastward like some of them do. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to St. George, Utah, first of all. Plenty of sunshine and hot. High triple digits, 100. Mason City, Iowa, a good deal of sunshine and warm, high around 80. And Aiken, South Carolina, humid with showers and a thunderstorm, high of 77.
We're airing the first of our two-part story on how Texas producers are rebuilding after the Perrington wildfire from March. The March blaze burned 500,000 acres in Texas alone. The State Animal Health Commission puts the figure at 2,500 head of cattle and 1,900 hogs lost to those flames. Perrington, Texas was hit hard. Much more rebuilding on the way. That includes grass in cattle country.
So you can kind of see it's recovering pretty well with the moisture we had. If this were a drought year, this grass would not look this good.
You can hear more about how forage is recovering Wednesday on Ag Day, and on Thursday we'll look into how fence rebuilding is far from over in the Texas Panhandle. Still to come this morning, we look at a program to help small farmers in urban settings take root. But first, we head to Wisconsin, where the Milwaukee Brewers hope to hit it big with their enhanced menu, which now includes some home state favorites. June is National Dairy Month, a great time to enjoy your favorite milk, cheese, and ice cream. And of course, it's also baseball season. At Miller Park in Milwaukee, the food vendor has made some changes to the menu to reflect some of the state's best-known products. We get details in this report from the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board.
Over the past couple of years, several ballparks have elevated their food service. So when Miller Park completed recent upgrades, they decided to have their menu reflect the best of Wisconsin.
This year we decided to take a good look at everything we did in our business. So we decided to look what's really important to Miller Park, and that's being in Wisconsin. We want to make sure that we represent Wisconsin the way we're supposed to.
One aspect of that was including iconic Wisconsin items on the menu. For example, bringing back frozen custard and offering more locations for visitors to get fried Wisconsin cheese curds.
People love what we're doing. They love the new items. They love being able to walk up to concession stand and getting a true Wisconsin-style custard.
They worked with Clements to develop an all-natural Wisconsin 4-cheese smoked pork sausage, which has become a top seller.
One of our biggest focuses this year has been bringing local into Miller Park. We want to focus on local produce, especially local dairy. Wisconsin's known for being the dairy state.
So far, all the changes have been well received. The addition of Wisconsin specialty cheese to the club level is a hit, and fans from the home team and the visiting team can enjoy some iconic Wisconsin food items.
Come to Miller Park and you don't have to go anywhere else inside of Milwaukee to taste our food. It's very important. It's a reflection of who we are as a community, who we are as a state.
Next time you head to Miller Park, make sure you're hungry so you can enjoy the Wisconsin menu. And that's Wisconsin Dairy News.
Cheese curds, one of my favorites. All right, well, up next, we'll see how microgreens and microloans work together in the benefit of urban farmers.
Visit farmjournalpro.com. Trusted analysis, professional insight. farmjournalpro.com.
In the country, brought to you by Kubota. See the all-new Commander Pro zero-turn mower at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
New research from USDA is showing the benefits of small edible plants called microgreens. Not only are they tasty toppings for soups and salads, but they also help battle chronic illnesses like cardiovascular disease. Ag Department researchers say red cabbage microgreens in particular help laboratory mice moderate their weight and cholesterol. A growing number of urban farmers are growing microgreens and selling them directly to chefs. Well, in this video from USDA, we'll see how microloans are helping city producers harvest plenty of green.
This is the pub and the people. It's like a neighborhood pub. We were interested in using microgreens in our food because we have a really amazing kitchen and amazing chef.
So microgreens are just very young greens. They're colorful, as you see here. They add texture and flavor to a dish, and they're also very nutritionally dense.
I contacted Mary to ask if she would mind selling us some, and she's like, well, we're also looking for space. So we had this big open space in the basement, so I was like, yeah, you should just use our basement and we can trade greens for space. So that's what we did.
I found out about the USDA microloan, and we applied, and within a couple months we received the loan, and that was for the full $50,000. We spent the money to buy so many little things, just day-to-day operating costs, our labels that we had produced, and none of those things would be possible at all if we didn't have that financing in the background.
Being an urban farm, we can cut our produce the same day that it gets to a chef, which is ideal in any situation. So, being near an urban center is ideal for any kind of a farm, but especially for something that's as perishable and delicate as a microgreen.
It's great. Like, you can get the trays, you bring it to your restaurant, and it's not just like a garnish to make something look pretty. Like, it has a ton of flavor. It's absolutely beautiful. So super lucky to have them in the city right now.
We do a chili here with some of our microgreens, and people love it. And it's great because I can just go downstairs and clip some off.
Sometimes I just see this and I can't believe what's here and what we've built over in such a short period of time. And the USDA microloan was, absolutely key to that.
I would encourage anyone who's interested in our microloan program to either go onto the USDA website and just put in microloans, or you can go to your local farm service agency.
You can learn more about the microloan program at your local FSA office. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest lasting pickups.